My guest on this podcast is Harvey from Growth Properties, based down in the south, who's built a substantial property portfolio up in the northeast. We talk about the challenges around mental health, building that business, finding the right people to work with remotely, and also building a business with other investors as well. But some of the other challenges in growing and expanding that business, as well as how social media has helped and impact the business. So let's get straight into the podcast.
So I've got a marketing business now. If I put a job advert out for a social media manager, I'll get 100 people put their hands up for that job because it sounds good. But then also when you get into it, it's quite interesting. And marketing roles, like or funnel builder or something like that, or videographer, you can pay very well. There's very big margins in it, and it's quite an interesting job. Yeah. So I didn't want to run it, so I hired a team. So straight away, the wage bill was just wiping it out. And then because we wasn't efficient enough, there was loads of inefficiencies. And because I was a landlord, not a letting manager, I was charging everybody low percentages. I wasn't putting the margins in. I went and got a training. I went and trained with Sally Lawson in the end. We studied that business in the end. I did exit it in the end for like multi-six figures. Probably got the money back what I lost in the end, but the opportunity cost was,
time it's taken.
Yeah, and the energy, yeah, it was ginormous.
Harvey, how do you go from being sectioned under the Mental Health Act and going on to build a property business where you're doing like 70, 80 odd thousand pounds a month?
Interesting question, and great. Let's go straight into the deep end. A journey is probably the easiest thing. I think everybody's looking for this like quick snap of the fingers, this magic bullet, this magic technique, but it's just compounding journey and a bit of patience in the end, which I found hard at the start. Probably one of the main reasons I actually got sectioned is because I was just too impatient and trying to take on too much too quickly kind of thing. So if I was to summarize it, patience and persistence and keep on showing up even in the face of disheartenedness and failure, obviously massive failures, not many more than being locked up under the Mental Health Act, you know.
Well, what led to that? What got you to that place?
What, being sectioned. So again, a massive combination. So childhood, so I'm mixed race. My dad's from the Caribbean. My mum's white English, but my mum left my dad quite violent from that generation. Like, I'm not justifying it from my dad. So mum left him. We moved out of London when we was very young. So born in Stratford, Plaster Hospital. Got knocked down the year I was born. So I don't know if that says anything about me, but we moved out of London and grew up in a little village, still on the inside of the M25 called 𝗍𝗲𝗁. My nan moved there first. My mum was in like not getting with my dad, but never knew my dad. Never met him. I've never seen a picture of him. Moved from London, which was multicultural in the 80s. It was multicultural London. But we moved to 𝗍𝗲𝗁, little village. There's one other black face there. But then I was growing up with a white East End family and I looked more black, especially when I was younger. I had more afro hair before I was losing it. So yeah, it just, that was a bit of a confusing thing, family stuff. Then I got to an age and I started smoking weed. The weed didn't majorly trigger it, but all these things started contributing towards it. But always entrepreneurial since young, you know. And ultimately, one day, like, I went from being sort of like 11, 12, 13 up to sort of the age of 16 of being entrepreneurial. We used to be like hardcore in jungle music. We used to run parties. I used to hire little halls, BMX parts. Used to break BMXs down and sell BMX parts because my mum couldn't afford a bike. So I used to just trade them. So I went from always having a little bit of money from my own ingenuity, and then it kind of went to my head as well, thinking, well, I'm kind of Rockefeller here and I'm the man. And then I had a split of a girl as well, and I started smoking weed, like skunk weed as well, very, very heavily. And it would become a bit of a sedative as well. And then I went from having decent money to having no money, and it just robbed me of my ambition. I was lazy, just didn't have no money. So one day I was like, right, I'm giving up, and I give up like overnight, but I couldn't sleep, and I took on a really sort of quite a bit more in business than I should have done and put myself under a bit too much pressure. So I wasn't sleeping from excitement, pressure, and giving up smoking all at the same time. So that was the big catalyst of it. But then it was a big cauldron pot of growing up, being confused, like just loads and loads of like contributors. But the big thing was the sleep. I didn't have no sleep. So I got sectioned 25 years ago when I was 21. I got sectioned again 3 years later, and then 10 years ago it nearly rose its head again, and I wasn't smoking. Like, at the time I said it was drug-induced psychosis. Of course that had an influence on it, but the bigger influence was giving up so quick, not so much the actual smoking itself, although that did have its side effects, as in being lazy, not having confidence and stuff like that sort of thing. So yeah, and then it happened nearly 10 years ago, and again I got into the space of education. and I went to a few seminars, and I just
In terms of self-development?
Yeah, self-development, but I consumed too much, and I was up all night thinking, and I didn't get sectioned again, but it really got close to happening again in 2014. So
you naturally have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And always on the go, thinking of kind of new ideas. And it kind of almost describe a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And we have different journeys in terms of getting to where we are. But then what was the light bulb moment about property? What got you thinking about property from that?
Do you know what? Everybody asks that question because it is obviously an obvious question. I ask other people it as well, but I can't trigger it back. My granddad always believed. My granddad was working class, World War II, veteran. You know, he's a prisoner of war as well. But he just really believed in like owning a property. That was his big priding point. Got to own our house, got to own the property, and he kept on just saying to me, "Money's in bricks and mortar, boy. The money's in bricks and mortar." He used to just always say it to me. So he just planted so far. And again, we're back in the day. You'll remember Saj. But back in the day, before the internet and that, like the thing was the Loop magazine and stuff like that. So I used to always be trading in the Loop magazine, going through there, looking through the stuff. And
big adverts in those papers, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. But then there used to be this property section in there, and in the Gazette as well, in the middle, each week there used to be the property section. And I was always drawn to it.
Flicking through pages.
Absolutely, yeah, just flicking through them pages. And I always be like, that rents for that sells for that. And before I even understood exactly what to do, because the education wasn't back then what it is today, you couldn't just go on YouTube.
Take a big leap of faith to just see, actually, that property looks a bit tired, it's this much. That one looks fantastic, that much. There must be some profit in this.
I'm embarrassed to say, I didn't even know how to make profit. I bought my first 3 properties and I still didn't even know what a yield was. I didn't know how to make money really properly from it. I was just like, I want to be in this.
It just goes to show, just getting started is the biggest hurdle. Just start.
Yeah.
You can figure it out as you go along. You don't have to know everything before you start.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a big thing. Like, I've come up with this formula myself, which I'm super proud of. I call it the property delta matrix. And I'm very much not of the type of person where I say, because I done it, so can you. Listen, Hussain Bolt run under 10 seconds. I don't care if I hired a mentor, I paid £100,000 to, believed in myself, trained every day. I've not got the natural skill to be a runner. So I believe, find what your skills are and craft them skills, and you could get the best of you, but you might not necessarily be elite, because some people just got natural skills to get a further elite level. But I'm very much not of the school of that. So what I say to people is, you need money, knowledge, network, time, and courage, confidence, conviction. The biggest thing is that holds people back is getting started. And the more overwhelming it is, the more fear that kicks in, and the less probability you have of getting started.
Rabbit in the headlights, you just get overwhelmed with so much information. And when you get started in property, there's just so many different strategies, techniques, methods you can use. And I love the fact that you take the time to understand what might be the right thing for somebody. I think very few people talk about that in our space. And I think that's so important, that not everyone's going to be successful at everything that they do. But if you work to your natural strengths and abilities, for example, if somebody's in a work environment where they're with people all the time, they understand people, they're going to be great at speaking to sellers, estate agents, investors, selling deals, because that's going to be their natural strengths. But they may not be brilliant at the analytical stuff and the detail, but somebody else will. But if we work to our strengths and pass out the bits we're not so good at to somebody else, we're going to excel much further.
Yeah, absolutely. A delta is a triangle, and what I say to people, like in ancient Latin, and I say to people, look, at the bottom there is basic stuff, and I know me and you might have a little bit of a debate on this, but you've got your like buy-to-let stuff. It's the simplest form, and in my opinion, not everybody, because I've had loads of debates with people in this space, not everybody, but most people should cut their teeth on something a little bit more simple. Like, you look at boxers, Anthony Joshua, when he won the Olympics, didn't go straight for a heavyweight title fight. He went through journeymen, and they built him up on arena sizes, components, and they craft that journey to make sure the confidence stay there. Because if you lose too early, it knocks your confidence too much. And it's the same with property. Like, my first deal was a land development. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never ever done a refurb before. I'd never owned my own house or anything. I just went to auction one day, stuck my hand up and won this piece of land. I was in, I was like, oh, wow. And then once I got it, I procrastinated massively, because I was speaking to...
Fear kicks in as well, yeah.
It kicked in, the realism of it kicked in.
And what have I done? What am I going to do? What if I get this wrong?
Yeah. And I'd done nothing with that first deal. But the beauty was, in between then, I'd done a number of buy-to-lets. So before the loss, because I lost a lot of money on that, but before the loss come in, I got the taste from doing a few other deals in between. Like,
you started, it got you moving forward.
Yeah.
And even though that wasn't your best deal, but what it did, it gave you the confidence to start moving forward.
Absolutely.
And most people, if you're asking property, when you look at their first few deals, they look back and say, oh, they're one of the best deals. But it gets you started.
Yeah. Absolutely. That was super valuable before getting me started. And I was in the deep end. So when I started doing smaller deals, it was like, it kind of managed my expectations backwards. But
so when did you get the first property? When did you get on that property ladder?
2009 in the recession. So again, all the noise was like 2008 was obviously the big crash, the right height of it, the pinnacle of it. 2009 come, everybody was going right, like, don't invest now. It's the worst time. Everybody was nervous. And again, back then we didn't have YouTube, and YouTube was around, but it wasn't.
Infancy, there's very little content and stuff on there, not like it is today.
Yeah, I didn't know of it at the time. I didn't even have a laptop. Like, I was old school, phone calls. Like, I wasn't internet. I'm a bit dyslexic, so online stuff, I was like, that's not for me, kind of thing. So I literally just went out and tried to figure it out myself, and figured out, don't buy a piece of land for your first deal. Like, for me anyway. Some people can pull that off. I couldn't, you know. Like, but yeah, so 2009 was the first few deals.
You've heard the phrase, your network is your net worth, and you'll also hear it in this particular podcast as well. That's because people in property recognize the importance of being connected with other people. Property is a people business, and that's the reason I've been running a networking event for over a decade now. Each and every month we bring like-minded people together, an opportunity for you to come along and meet some of those people, and also learn from other people on the stage, learn from myself as well. So make sure you book onto the next meeting. We're on the third Tuesday of every month in Birmingham. Now let's get back to the podcast. As well, the first few properties that you're doing, what sort of purchase prices and stuff were you looking at?
So this is the story as well. So I'm a remote property investor, and it's been a bit of a journey with this. So I was born in Stratford, and then we grew up in 𝗍𝗲𝗁 from the age of 6. So the two areas that me and my family kind of knew were Stratford and 𝗍𝗲𝗁. 𝗍𝗲𝗁 wasn't an investment location because it's a village, and it was out of my budget what I had at the time. Stratford way out of my budget as well at the time, and East London, even though it was cheaper back then, it was still out of the budget that I actually had. So what I done is I was like, okay, I looked on the map within radius and what everybody used to teach within an hour from where I lived. I bought a property in Southend-on-Sea. So I bought a property for £91,000. And this is what I say to people, I didn't know Southend-on-Sea any better than I know Stockton-on-Tees, which is 4 hours away. I bought it right in the middle of a red light district. And 4 doors down from the property, there was a drug rehabilitation centre, and it was a heroin and crack area. So the ladies, which was addicts, was walking past this flat at night time, and in the morning they was queuing up in the rehabilitation centre to get their medication. Luckily, I moved my friend in, and I think he quite liked these ladies at nights because he stayed there for about 7 years. But all jokes aside, I think you kill me for saying that. But all jokes aside, I didn't know the area any better. And being an hour away, slight benefit, but for me, it wasn't a great benefit because...
So the only thing you knew was the distance. Everything else was unknown.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is what I say to people today, to know it, you're not going to go and walk the area. You're going to go online and research an area.
Yeah.
And then even networking now, you don't go around, like, network events are great, but I tell you what's even better, go and network online and then turn up into a network event, build a bit of an online profile and turn up to a network event, you'll be able to talk to everybody in the room.
Yes.
So does it have to be local anymore? Absolutely not. And I was swimming against the tide with this. So my journey was, I bought a handful of property, the first ones, bought buy-to-let, didn't know what I was doing, didn't know anything about BRR, stuck my money in, bought a piece of land, bought buy-to-let, and I was like, I'm nearly out of money. Like, how does anybody even... managed to build a portfolio?
How did you accumulate the money just to get the first few? Was it other businesses stuff that you were doing, or?
Yeah, so I had a bit of savings from other businesses. I said always entrepreneurial, whether it was from like fireworks to selling jumpers, always
kind of buying, selling, trading, some doing
cars, loads of different things.
A little bit of cash, and then case right, I need to do something with this.
Yeah,
and property was the
and my granddad's original house. So my mum inherited that. We put my name on there. So I leveraged a little bit of money out of that on the mortgage, and I had a little bit of money from there. And I had about an 80 grand pot. So I think we're loaned about, I loaned about 50-50 of my money in there against what loan against that first house. And the 80 grand went like that. And I was like, oh, wow, like, I'm out of money. It's like,
it doesn't matter how much money you have in property, it's very easy to spend.
Absolutely. So then I got my first laptop. I thought, I need to find out about this. What is this internet thing? Let me just find out what I'm doing. So as I said, I didn't know anything. I just jumped in and got the first 2 deals. And I come across a guy, you might remember him. His name was AJ, Indian guy from Romford.
Yeah.
Do you remember him? He got in loads of trouble. Like,
I was going to say, didn't he get his cars repossessed or something? Absolutely. I remember.
But you got to imagine.
He used to sell deals.
That's it.
AJ 𝗲𝗲𝗁 or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember his surname. But I went on the internet and I found this guy. I've got a lot to thank for him. Regardless of whatever went on, I've got a lot to thank for him.
And sometimes that's the thing with the mentors, whatever good, bad, whatever. Just like getting that first property, often it just gets you moving.
Well, for me, it was just a light bulb moment. So I went online, found this guy, and I was dubious like anybody would be. I was like, but he was talking about the remote stuff. So he was the person that's planted that seed. He was going to buy all over the country. And that's when I learned the yield. I'm now a piece of land in, one property in. I didn't know what a yield was. Like, really, like, please, audience, don't do a little bit more research than I've done when you get started. But he was talking about yields, and I'm a yield junkie, kind of saying. But I was born in so say Stratford's here, Aveley's here, Romford's in the middle of where I live in Brentwood now. So out of a triangle, Romford's directly in the middle of where it was. So he's in Romford, and he planted this seed in my head. Like, at the time, even back then, you needed like 30% deposits because it's right in the recession. Rates, by the way, the audience was like 6% plus. Yeah. Everybody thinks we're at ridiculously high rates at the moment. Like, that's just been a norm if you started.
Yeah, they were more normal rates.
Absolutely. So, but anyway, he planted that seed of remote, but I was a bit scared to do it. And I bought that property, but he also planted the seed of buy, refurbish, refinance. So in my first 5 years, I've done 5 deals basically. So I bought them first couple, learned about buy, refurbish, refinance from him. I learned about, he was talking about go and get overdrafts, go and get bank loans. And it was
just get your hands on whatever cash you can get just to buy.
Yeah. But it was a tiny bit dated because we was in that recession. The banks was a little bit more tight than they was. So I went out and applied for all the credit I could. And my credit score went down, and I couldn't even buy a house for 6 months till I repaired my credit score because I went for it too aggressively. But I did. One day, I had that second deal, and I learned this BRR strategy from just going online, and my broker at the time, Mortgage Works, was doing a light refurbishment mortgage where you could buy it and do the work within 3 months. And he was talking about use the bank's money, and the bank phoned me up one day, literally at home, like ring, bank, hello, bank here, would you like a loan? You just pre-qualified for a 25k loan. I'm looking at
that could be because there's money moving through your account.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And the computer triggers, oh, this guy's got a bit of money moving through your account, offer him some money.
That's exactly what it was. Exactly that. So they phoned me up, said, do you want a loan? I was like, yeah. And like that, the guy on the phone laughed. He went, what do you want it for? I was like, I'll buy the house. And he was like, oh, these are personal loans. If you'd have said it was for a kitchen, a car.
Oh, well, I think kitchen do it.
Yeah. And he went, I can't even change it now. He said, because these calls are recorded. He said, but what I can do is call you back. I knew exactly what he meant. And by the way, audience, you're not allowed to take personal loans for things. I'm not suggesting you do this.
What the banks don't like is that the property's bought all with debt.
Yeah.
They want some of your money in it. That's
absolutely
right. Yeah.
And also, it's a business. So we have to go through a different process to see if it's business. In my head, I'm happy to stay in the grey area if I feel ethical. I knew I could pay that loan regardless if the property worked or not. So don't do this, audience. You're not allowed to do it, but I wouldn't frown upon you if you did. But he phoned me back within a second. Do you want a loan? Yeah. What do you want? A kitchen. And the money was in the bank at the end of the day. I learned this BRR strategy, Mortgage Works, and we recycled the money. So I loaned 25k, I had 15 left out of the initial capital. But then I'd done the BRRs, you end up back getting all your money out, and I didn't get all my money out. Yeah. I actually left 30 odd grand in the deal. So I only got about 10 out.
So just to break that down for somebody who's trying to maybe make sense of everything that you're saying. So you bought the property, you're putting down like a 30% deposit.
Yep. So,
and you got 70% mortgage on that.
Yep.
Then you spend some of your money also to improve the property.
Yep.
And then they give you like a second little further advance on the mortgage. Mm-hmm. And plus you've got the loan money that you're putting as well. So overall, you've left in, what do you say, about 30?
About 30k, which was okay-ish, but then I still done the maths and I was like...
This is your ability to then keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. But I've done the math, I was like, I need another 30k. The house at the time, I needed to be in at about 40k. And coincidentally, I met a guy from the north. And in my head, because of that initial guy, that AJ, I was thinking of the north, but I thought, you know, if I do just a handful at home, first of all, figure out how long it takes to do a kitchen, like get my head around it a little bit, then I'll maybe go to a new location. But then I bumped into this guy. He'd done over 100 deals in the north. He met a girl that I knew, so just a chance meeting. He met a girl that I knew. We went on a golf day. He really bonded anyway. He's got multiple businesses in the northeast. Property, he'd done over 100 deals, and property was just a little side hustle from him because he had just other entrepreneurial ventures and he's just chucking money into property. And I remember saying to him to this day, I said, he's asking what I was doing. I said, doing a little bit of property, trying to get into it. And he said, why didn't you look at the north? And I said to him, because I just don't know it. And I don't know anybody. He said, you do now, you know me. He told me, he said, look at Middlesbrough. I'm from Stockton-on-Tees, but everybody knows Middlesbrough. I went home that day, I looked on Middlesbrough, I was like, there's houses on here for £5,000. Like, wow. Hey,
Buy 6 of them 30 grand.
Yeah, so I went and met him and exactly that. I said, these houses for £5,000. He went, mate, he said, all you're going to do is buy a headache. He said, my mate bought 5 on an estate once for 10 houses for 55k. And he said he bought a headache. He said, somebody moved a horse in the first floor. He said, that's what sort of, he said he regrets the day he bought them. He said, but it's like the Monopoly map. Everybody thinks the North is this dead, dire place. Well, they did. It's improving now with all these agendas levelling up and that.
There's always pockets as well.
Absolutely, yeah. There's there's always an Old Kent Road, Mayfair, and your Northumberlands that are in the middle. And it's about every city, no matter how low end of a city that is, there's always going to have the higher end, the middle part, and the lower part of it. So it's about finding the macro and microeconomics within a city.
Yeah, and generally the lowest price point is not where you want to be.
No, absolutely, yeah. That's why when I teach people, I say, look, take the Monopoly map. Your whole Kent Road's here, and your Mayfair's here. Depending what sort of thing you want from it, there's different styles for different, like I call it an all-weather portfolio. So I say, like, you want a diverse portfolio. You've got some stuff that's going to be more for capital growth and maybe less yields and easy to flip and sell if you need to. You have some that's probably going to give you better returns, but probably not great sellers. I said,
Won't be much. The only buyers are probably other landlords.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And similar again with HMOs, like only other sellers, like. But if you diversify that, I got it from Ray Dalio. If you have an all-weather portfolio, you could diversify that and a mixture of SA and different stuff. So when it's up and down, you've got stability in there. That's how you'll grow. But I say most people starting, get that foundation. And I say, look, the sweet spot for me in most areas, if you take the cheapest price, say it's 40k is the cheapest price, and in Stockton-on-Tees, for example, you can still pick up houses for 40k. And then you look at the average price in Stockton-on-Tees, 140, which is home buyer. I kind of buy it about 80, 90k. So in between the lowest and the bit there. So it's just like and what I attract with that is kind of, I call them higher end. I don't know how to say it without being derogatory.
What I think about it is, and the way I tend to look at it is, there'll be people that live in a certain area that are desperate to get out of that area. And there are areas that people want to move into.
Yeah.
So the 80 grand will be where people want to get out of the 40s and 60s and get into the 80s. But nobody will want to get in and want to live in the 40s. They're there because they don't have the choice.
Absolutely. And also what I find with these areas, I like ex-local authority estates because you find they're council estates. Like often my sort of like tenant profile in that style, I'm buying higher end properties now a bit because I've evolved and I've got a foundation of those. But that sort of style, especially for starting, what I found was a nice little sweet spot for starting because it was low barrier to entry, capital wise, long tenant terms, because you've got somebody wants to cancel, you've got somebody in the mindset that ain't a homeowner. And in areas, especially like if the average house price is 140k, somebody like the average salary in that area, so the price per earnings ratio is really strong. So the average salary is like 32k. So within a multiplier of their income is strong, and there's more and more jobs going into these areas now, and more.
Afford to buy, but some people choose not to as well.
But if you go to the 140k houses, so this is the dynamics. The 80k houses will rent for like 650.
Okay.
The 130 to 150k houses, whereas the first-time buyer market will rent for maybe 750. Right. So they're nearly double the price, but not a massive not double the rent. So the yields are still decent. You've got good capital growth ones and good selling and flipping ones, but you've got high turnover tenants because most of these tenants are homeowner mindset and they're just renting until they save up the deposit. Yeah. And because the rents are still relatively low to their income and the deposits are very low to their incomes, like in the South, like I'll have tenants, professional tenants, and they're trapped because the rents are high and the deposits are high. So
they can't afford to save up for a deposit.
Yeah.
They're falling that trap where they never have enough money to be able to buy, even though they want to.
Absolutely. Where here they can buy. So you get you probably turn them over 18 months to 2 years on average, where if you go at the 80k sweet spot, you'll get somebody wants a council home, often a mum with benefits, we get a guarantor, we get rent insurance, so we're safe, young family on benefits, want a council home, so you get them for like 8, 9, 10-year tenants. And the thing with single lets, turnover kills a profit. If like the time you've paid for tenant find, slight, even if they looked after the house, you still got to give it, refresh, little void period while you're marketing it. You're probably 1,500 quid to 2k into that. And if you're only earning like 3-4 grand a year from that, and you do that every 18 months, you're really destroying your, there's no profit,
And so how did you then grow that then? So you went on to do a lot of deals in a short space of time. What was the accelerator then? So what shifted then?
Yeah, so the big shift was, So we're winding back a little bit. So I got that second house. I was out of money nearly. So we got the house where we got the loan, out of money nearly, and I bumped into this guy, and I had about 9 grand left. And my first house, it was 11 grand in, and I'd done the BRR. Bought it, I put 13 grand in. So where I was earning, I just topped the money up as I went along. I didn't even view it. So he had a team, he had a maintenance team that runs this, because he's got multiple shops. He's got an in-house handyman. He had an in-house lady that done the management, and she viewed it for me. I just said, I threw him loads of deals, area. No. Kept on creeping up with price. Yeah, that would just about work. And it met my budget. So at the time I was scared. I said, I don't know you that way. But what I've done is I managed the downside risk of that. I thought, look, it's 13K in. If that 13K gets wiped out, and I can never rent a house and I can't resell it, can I live to fight another day? Is that tied to a loan that a bank's going to come after? It wasn't. So I could afford to, I could afford to pay the mortgage while it sat empty, the worst case. But literally, because I was so known in the area, she walked into the house, walked out the house on the viewing, and we rented that property before I actually bought it. So the lady went, oh, you work for Lee Blackburn, are you buying that house? She was like, yeah. She went, can we put on the list for renting that? And that actually lady rented it. So we bought it for 40, I bought it for 41, and she rented it for £500 a month, stayed there for about 4 years. The mortgage back then was about 150. I got a light refurbishment. No, I didn't get a light refurbishment mortgage on it because the mortgage works minimum was 50K. I went with BM Solutions. So I had to wait the 2 years to refinance it. At the end of the 2 years, the rates went down. This is what I say to people, don't chase the rates, because when the rates are higher, that you can get better deals. Yeah. And similar to that first deal, I bought that first deal, thought I was going to do a BRR on it and left 30K in it, because comparables were like 125, but they only valued it at 111 because the surveyors was really cautious because of the market where it's at. But then when the market jumped back in 2012, because they put the right to buy in and the economy jumped back, that price jumped up to 150. So I managed to get all my money out on the second round of it. Rates went down, so I had a lower mortgage, and the equity shot straight up. So this is what I say to people at the moment. I said, this is a buying opportunity. So you can buy, even though your cash flow might be slightly squeezed, as soon as them rates come down, which I do believe they will at one point, the prices will have a jump up. And then you, and then you'll have the extra cash flow in the future and the extra equity that you've got from it. But going back to ask your original question, how we got momentum is I was struggling. So then I learned the BRR deal strategy. These metrics took me from doing 5 deals. So I've done 5 deals. I was struggling. I went to a seminar and got sidetracked. So everybody's saying I am a humble learner. If you can tell me facts, and it's against what I think, if you show me the facts, right, you've got me. So I went to a seminar and everybody in that seminar was saying, hey, only invest within an hour away, do HMOs, blah, blah, raise private capital, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, makes sense. Or it made sense. Instead of earning £200-300 per property, you earn £1,000. So I went off, went and raised some private capital, and we raised about 300 grand to do a HMO locally. But again, this goes to that delta matrix. That HMO, we've done a 6-bedroom, council challenged it, tried making us take it back to a 4-bedroom. This is all with 300 grand of somebody else's money. So the pressure and stress I had on me doing that was absolutely immense. I had to battle the council. I'm having to go to this investor, explain this beautiful dream that I showed you is not quite the reality.
Take a little bit longer.
Yeah. We kind of got there in the end. We won a 6-bedroom, it take to a 5, and it did rob a lot of the profit, and lucky I had an understanding investor. But around this time I was battling that, because I was humble. I said, I better do it locally and just do HMOs. And I better raise other people's money. But lucky I didn't understand an investor, and we navigated that. So around that time, that first tenant in that property in Southend that I feel like was just, I don't know how I stayed there, but anyway, he moved out. And we moved the second tenant in. And I remember she phoned me up, because I moved her in myself at the time. At the start, you had to hustle a bit. I'd done the move-in. And she phoned me up, she's like, oh my God, there's prostitutes walking past this house. So after a week of being in there. And I was like, the penny just dropped. Yeah. I was like, I don't know this area. I didn't know that better than I knew Stockton-on-Tees. And that really confirmed that. And I was like, you can do this online now. I know there's a few trade-offs, and being there does help to some degree, but it's more of a mental thing of making you feel comfortable.
And information is more readily available. It's so much information, it's just available at your fingertips these days.
Absolutely. And I thought, I've got him there and his team there. So of course I can't pop in, but after that popping in is just your comfort stuff. Yeah. And often as well, it forces you to actually be a bit more hands-on. My local properties, I end up going around there. I phone 3 handymen up and they don't turn up. Oh, let's just go around and fix it myself.
Right, right.
When it's far away, I can't fix it myself. I've got to outsource it, you know, like it has to be outsourced. I have to put the systems in place to do it, and I don't get sucked kind of into it. But that was the real point. And then what I added to it then was deal sourcing, because what I realised is no matter how much of a good BRR you are, you don't pull all the money out of every single deal. There's going to be capital left in. And the typical deals we was doing at the time, I was leaving about 5 to 8K in per deal. So I was like, I've got a shortfall. But for me, the penny dropped. Like, no matter who you are, whether you want to do rent to rent, HMO, service accommodation, buy to lets, it all starts with deal sourcing.
Yeah, your core fundamental skill is your ability to find deals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the way you find good deals, like, again, sorry to break the news to everybody, this is facts. Around 90% of property transactions each year get done by an estate agent. Yeah. So if you do not learn how to buy from estate agents and you only go for off-market stuff,
you're limiting your market.
Massively. I'm not saying don't go for off-market stuff, but off-market stuff, I'm a coach myself, so I've got nothing against coaches, obviously. I wouldn't be a coach myself, but nothing sells courses like saying, hey, use other people's money. Hey, get off-market deals. Find a motivated seller. Last year, again, I like fact-driven stuff. As I said, you tell me facts and I'm like, okay, I'm in. Last year, 178,000 homes was in arrears at the end of last quarter. This is when the mortgages spiked massively, more than they did in, I think it's 40 years. So that sounds like a lot of homes being in arrears, but there's 28 million mortgages. So it's 0.6%. The biggest motivation for someone to sell their house fast is because of arrears. And this is not people being repossessed, this is just arrears. The banks learned from the last recession, like they stress tested people. So as much as people are find it challenging, it's not,
they're stretched, but they're not at a point, they're at breaking point.
Absolutely.
And also the most of these people in arrears have probably got more equity in their property as well now.
Absolutely.
And so they could sell more comfortably rather than under distress.
Absolutely. You remember, it's nothing like '08. You remember, it's like in '08, it was 100%, 110% mortgages. The bank was going to you, hey, do you want to lend a little bit for refurbishments? You, like my mate, my mate walked in and he didn't have no background or nothing. Like, he walked into a broker off the street and went, I want to get a mortgage. He went, what's your salary? He went, 20 grand. He went, let's just say 35 grand, you'll get a better mortgage. And boom, we got a mortgage. It was like, it was crazy. So that is not going to happen like it did in 2008, in my opinion. As you said, people got more equity. Yeah, the criteria is stricter. So I can't really see that happening again. But back on where it was.
And the lenders are not rushing to repossess like they were back in the past at that point as well. So they're more lenient with people in arrears.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I can't see it happen again, but these are facts. So motivation of sellers is, I find this is how you get best deals. If you, volume and consistency negates luck. If you do something consistently for long enough period of time, that's when you win. And what I found is the biggest thing, we were talking off camera about this, is getting started. And this is what I say to people in property. I know HMOs sound sexy, but they're overwhelming. You've got to deal with compliance.
They're complicated.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not easy.
So don't get me wrong. This is why I take people through. I say, look, score yourself from 0 to 10. How much capital you got? How much knowledge you've got? Like, I mean, experience and knowledge, not just YouTube videos you've watched. Like, how much experience have you got and knowledge? And that could be a mentor, but I mean a mentor that's going to sit on your side, not just a weekend course. So how much knowledge have you got? How much time have you got? How much network have you got? Have you got the builders, the right accountants, the right tax advisors? Because on that matrix, at the bottom, you've got buy-to-lets, then I've got HMOs and SAs, then you've got commercial conversions and developments. The higher you go up, the more complex it is. So on these questions, the higher you should be from 0 to 10 to scoring. And then at the bottom, I've got courage, confidence, conviction. How good are you absorbing pressure, stress, and still moving forward in the face of it? Do you bury your head when there's a challenge? Because if you do that, don't take on these bigger projects, and especially not with somebody else's money. It's unethical. Banks are in the business of lending you money. And if you go to the bank for development to lend money and you've not got experience, they won't lend you it.
Yeah. They're going inside leg measurement and everything because they want to de-risk it. And if they say no because they're not comfortable with the arrangement, they doubt in your ability to be able to succeed.
And this is it. It's not the deal that succeeds. It's the way you manage that deal. So deal on paper is one thing and you managing it correctly is another thing. So, and I've just loaned 120 grand. I've got some deals going through, just 120 grand landed in my bank weeks ago. So I'm not against lending private capital. I think it's a great thing, but I feel people have got to do it responsibly where you are in your journey. And if you've never picked up a paintbrush before, you've never, like if you've got transferable skills, like you're a builder, okay, look, you've got a transferable skill, but I say just do it. Again, it never sells as many courses because it doesn't sell as many dreams. But what I feel everybody, look, no matter who you are, should start with deal sourcing. Because how you get deals is building a pipeline. So
no matter what strategy you follow, you have to be able to find, appraise, negotiate these things.
Absolutely. So volume negates luck. I say, look, analyze at least 10 deals per week. Use tech to do that. Forget viewings now. Even if it's local, I don't do viewings anymore. So what I do is I get offers agreed and prices agreed before I view it. And people say, the agent won't let you do it. It's all about the approach you do. So I will reverse engineer it to an agent and say, hey, I'm not going to offer on this property because I haven't viewed it. I would never view it without viewing it, but I live quite far away, or even I live close. I say, because
time pressure's not about.
Yeah, time and blah blah. Like, I could probably only pay this much money for it. Have you had it? If there's I know you're not allowed to tell me, but if there's been offers above there, I don't want to waste your and my time. But do you feel they'll accept that? If you think they'll accept that, then I'll come out or I'll send the builder out, and then we'll put a firm offer in with the proof of funds.
Yes.
I've done.
Didn't get first. Yeah. Yeah.
So if they say yes, they probably would accept that. Like the amount of offer viewings I've done in the past. So I had a stage where I used to pay someone to do viewings for me. We used to view at least 10 per week, at least, and I was like, 8 of those I'd offer on, and there were probably 7 of them already had offers way above what I could pay for it. So what is the point of viewing that?
So when you were viewing those 10 properties, you were just looking at 10 that kind of fit your kind of criteria of where it is, the type of property, roughly the sort of price, and you'd go in and then offer on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, this is another mistake I did make as well, learning. So again, this is what I believe everybody should be. There's 3 different types of deal sourcer. You've got side hustle deal sourcer. You've got like a full-time hands-free portfolio deal sourcer. Then you've got arbitrage deal sourcing.
Yes.
So the difference between them is side hustle when you kind of co-source a little bit. Everybody should find somebody else, network with people, find somebody who is a deal sourcer.
Yes.
If you build your pipeline correctly, there will be overspill of deals that you can't fund or don't suit your criteria. So going back on what you just said there, that sort of triggered that, is I would only have a certain criteria. I didn't do student HMOs. Yeah. And because I built a relationship with the agent, there was loads of deals that come across my path that didn't suit me. And what I should have done is to say to somebody else, hey, it suits you, why don't you give me a commission and you can have it. But I lost a lot of money by doing that, but I've learned that. But ultimately as well, this is what I say to other people, is if you can find somebody that will sell the deals for you, even if you give them to another deal sourcer, you will build massive rapport and reciprocity with them and get a massive, like you're looking at these anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, view a high volume of them, put the numbers together, either give them, if you give 2 or 3 away to another deal sourcer and he gets profit on them, the third one, I bet you bottom dollar, he will pay you commission.
Yes. Yeah. You've proven yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And people too quick to want to earn money. Again, even with deal source, they say, what should I be selling deals for? Sell deals for either do it for free or for a little amount, because like, why do you believe you're worth 5k for that deal when this person over here sold 100 deals and they charge 5k? They've got systems, processes, delivery. You're going to have teething problems. But if you charge somebody either nothing or a little amount and just get the social proof will be worth more than the little amount.
Be transparent that you're just doing this, you're at the beginning of the stage, and everyone's sometimes too quick to come across as the finished article, and rather than being transparent, and so when you have problems, it's understandable.
Mm-hmm. That's the first deal I ever sold. I sold for 9k, and it's a massive mistake. I end up compensating them back because I made lots of mistakes. Like, just because I've done it for myself, I couldn't.
You overpromise, underdeliver.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know doing that process.
And I did. I got bought in. I went to a course, do this. I was like, yeah. Do you want to? Look, my accountants. I sold my first deal to my accountants. Okay. 9k. Yeah. Boom, and I overpriced them. You know, so I sold my next few deals for 5k. But the penny dropped though, even though I should have started a low, I done it in reverse. I tried a high price, right, and then I ended up recompensating them, so I ended up only getting a low price anyway. Yeah. But I should have started low, ironed out the teething problems, because people are more forgiving when you say, look, people charge this much, I'm going to charge you this much while I iron that out.
Yes.
And then, yeah, they're more forgiving. Yeah. You said you're under promised and over delivered that way, and you slowly creep your price up as you build your skill up. But for me, everybody should be a side hustle deal sourcer at least, or a sole trader deal sourcer. Okay. Not everybody should be a full-on deal sourcer. Deal sourcing as a business to scale is very difficult.
And it only suits a few people.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you do it yourself,
if you're an estate agent, but you've got a lot more headache responsibility than agent, you earn way more money.
Yeah.
But it's hard work.
You get paid. You get paid equally for the effort you put in. So what I say to people, if you're building your own portfolio, you have to look at deals anyway. So it makes sense, especially if you can find somebody to co-source with who can sell them for you, or even just get a few invested yourself. But like when I've done that as a sole trader, so as I said, I went from doing I went from doing like 5 deals in my first 5 years, stumbling around, trying to get a bit of education. I got sidetracked. I opened a coffee shop. So in 2013, like I bought the first three deals in the north, and I thought, right, I need some more capital to buy more of these deals. I was hooked. So I was like where I'm at, like 15 minutes around the road from where I live now in Brentwood, there's like a tube station, and across the road there was a coffee shop, and it was because of that guy in the north. He had sunbed shops.
Yeah.
And I found a shop that was perfect for a sunbed shop. Before rent to rent was a thing, I went and viewed the shop. I took him with me. Didn't know anything about commercial, just my appetite. I was playing golf with him. He's talking about these sunbed shops. I was like, I found the shop. I think it worked as a sunbed shop. Can you come with me? And massive mistake, I just shiny penny stuff, but I took him with me and he went, this would be brilliant. But upstairs, the shop was like a shop and uppers, and the people was upholstery people in there before. So they had the upstairs as their workshop and downstairs as their shop front, as a retail. And as the retail was declining a little bit, they were struggling to rent this building out because nobody wanted the upstairs space. It was all in one. So the price across the whole building wasn't matching the neighbouring properties. But he was building his own property and bringing down trades from the north and paying for like, before Airbnb and even rent to rent was a thing, he was paying for like these like bed sits they was at back in the day. Yeah. So we looked, I was like, fucking hell, we could turn up. I said to the agent, could we turn these into actually rooms? I didn't even know anything about this. Phoned up the council. She went, you can do it under permitted development. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll have that. Because I've done the math. I was like, the rooms upstairs will just pay for the whole building. So then anything in the shop, yeah, the shop will be free. There was a yard at the back. So I'm excited. But then because he went, yeah, go forward. We've got plans drawn up for it and everything. And the landlord nicked my idea. So I was then desperately looking for another sunbed shop. And I found this coffee shop. And I was like, oh, my mate's girlfriend worked in cafes and that, and she was fed up with her job at the time. So I was like, oh, perfect. Like, you're fed up with your job? Yeah, do you want to run a coffee shop for me? Exactly. So I didn't read the signs at the time. I was so excited in just getting it started. And in my math, in my head, I was thinking, I learned probably about £1,000 a week from this. I done the schoolboy errors of going in all the Costas, going, wow, there's loads of money in this. And I literally chucked her in the deep end. We called it 𝗬𝗏𝗁. The concept, like, this is when I learned about profiles. I've got great ideas and great vision, but I'm not good at consistent. I'm good at starting them, but not running them, you know? So I literally chucked her in there. She was nervous. I didn't read it. I ignored them signs because I was so excited. Yeah. She gave up on day one, and day two, I was in there with my iPhone, like how to make a cappuccino, like running this shop. And the idea behind the shop was to get more capital to buy more deals. I didn't buy another deal for a 2-year period because it just sucked me in. It lost me loads of money. Got in about, I know it seems like a classic story, but I got in about 50 grand debt, like just trying to keep my head above water.
Make the shop, try and make it work.
Yeah, try and make it work. Then I had 2 properties go empty at the same time. I had a big battle to get out this lease because it was just losing money, the shop. It was a nightmare. And I went to a seminar and I was like, I need to get back into property. And that's when I nearly got sectioned again because I was trying to run the property. I had these businesses going on. I wasn't sleeping. Yeah, stress. Like, but then I settled myself and I learned lessons from it before. I humbled myself. So I started meditation. I started like looking after myself more. I started measuring my sleep because what you don't measure, you don't grow. I got a Fitbit, made sure, look, I need sleep. Sleep is a trigger, what does it? And I slowly built myself back up and started deal sourcing. So I started buying my own properties, started sending a few to my accountant because he bought in and got 1 investor. And like anybody, I'd done sort of 10 in one in the first year as we got going. 2014, didn't buy nothing again. 2014 got going, done 10 deals for myself, just doing the BRR. And then sold about 5, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Why don't we sell? I started roughly selling 1 to 2 per month to investors, so like doing 5 to 10k, and it was largely me and the PA. Okay. So this is why I say, like, deal sourcing, if it's yourself running it, is not a bad thing. I had someone up there doing the viewings for us, but if it's yourself, it's not bad. But then when you try and scale it into a business, it's a difficult business to scale. So for hiring sourcers, because it's hard to retain them, because as soon as they learn it, they want to go and do it themselves.
Yeah, because most sourcers use it as a kind of, they graduate through that process of finding of somebody else and see how much money somebody else is making. Think, wow, even if I keep a couple of these.
Absolutely. So as soon as the type of people you need to hire that's going to be good at it have got an entrepreneurial spark. Yeah. They do it for you and they go, right, I need to itch my entrepreneurial itch. You know, again, but look, I've looked at businesses now. So ultimately finding lots of builders. So we had a great builder We was doing one roughly a month and he was brilliant. Then when we scaled it to 3 a month, he started breaking because he didn't have the infrastructure to hire. And then we had big challenges because I was trying to find a new builder. I was having challenges with him because he was worried that he wasn't going to get the work. And I was like, you're still getting the work, but we're now got a backlog. If you could manage it, I promise you, I wouldn't be even looking for new builders because you've been great, but you're not keeping up. We're now got a backlog of work. But yeah, it was really, really difficult. We tried scaling, but then by default, we bought in the lettings. And then because I had arguments with this builder,
when you say bought in the lettings, meaning that you started then managing the lettings in yourself.
Yeah, kind of. We didn't plan to do this. It just started happening. And then
because you had all these deals you sent to investors and say, "Great, can you now take care of them?"
Yeah, absolutely. And multiple streams of property income, and my shiny penny thing. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? We could earn some decent money from this as well. Like, it makes sense. It's in that, like, the mistake I made with the coffee shop, but it was the right thing. You need active income to grow a portfolio. You can't grow a portfolio just off other people's money in BRR. Go and lend somebody else's money, you're going to leave money in a deal. So you need some sort of active income outside to build it up. And the only deals that you might not leave money in is super big deals. Yeah. And in them super big deals, you need the experience to navigate them and the backup contingencies for the challenges that inevitably come with those. So you need that active income. So the penny drop for me was like, if I get the active income from, I'm looking at these properties from my own portfolio anyway. So it makes sense. If I'm doing the BRR, leaving like between 3 and 7 grand in each deal I'm selling tops it up. Yes. So then I added social media with it, which I was super nervous to do because I got sectioned in the past. I got in trouble with the law. It was with weed. I wasn't this big sort of like pimp. Yeah. Gangster. Although my entrepreneurial things did come into my mind when my mate moved in that place in Southend, I was like, oh, it could be like, I could get you to selling heroin and we could be a pimp at the same time. But yeah, it wasn't a heroin deal or anything like that. But I got caught with some weed when I was younger. I got caught growing it. I'll be sort of transparent. It was in my spare room. It was more my habit thing than anything. If you look at my logo, there's a little chimney at the top with leaf at the top, and I called it Growth Properties. I paid my price. I got it.
Just dropped now that you said.
Yeah. I done it as a tongue-in-cheek thing. I paid my penalties for it. I got in trouble. It was nothing major, but either way. But all this is skeletons. I thought if I get online, like, people are going to bring up my past, and I really was adamant not to go online. So I went and done some training with Roger Hamilton in Bali, Wealth Dynamics, and this is what I learned, like the profiles and stuff like that. And I just realised where it costs about 8 grand, and when you're in that environment and you massively pay attention. They went, right, you're doing some videos tomorrow, and I done it. And then I just started documenting what I was doing because we were doing quite a lot of deals, and because I lived in the south and was buying properties for 40, 50k, it just naturally snowballed. But then it snowballed beyond the level of what we could handle, and I went from a pretty decent-ish business. Was having troubles with the refurb guy. And there's another guy, a likeable guy, again, another mistake, I liked him. Great builder, but he was a weed smoker, not reliable. I was like, why don't we bring the back end business? We'll call it Growth Refurbishments, and you just do the work.
Yeah, you'll manage the back end.
Yeah. Problem was, he was one of these guys that didn't understand how to quote. He was scared to put in big quotes in case he lost a job. So he'd go around and go, yeah, we can do this 5 grand. Yeah. And the problem, I went from doing relatively well. I had like a sort of 18-month period of kind of building up. I was buying roughly a property a month for myself. We took on a commercial conversion, started doing some more HMOs again, and that's what was breaking that builder. So we went from doing these single lets, all in the same town. So we went from doing like one single let per month. Then I threw a commercial conversion at him and a HMO, and now 3 single lets a month. So he was kind of breaking. So I brokered the deal with this builder. Went, why don't you partner with me? I can drive you to work, obviously. And it makes sense, as you said, look, we've got all these investors, we've got the work, and it does make sense, but it was too early for where I was at. My deal sourcing business wasn't strong enough for me to go and focus. Any one of them businesses I could have made work individually.
Yes, but your attention was needed on the business.
Absolutely.
Spreading your attention across several businesses just diluted
massively. And the lettings is such a complex business to get up and running. There's
systems driven.
And this is what I've learned. So I've got a marketing business now. If I put a job advert out for a social media manager, I'll get 100 people put their hands up for that job because it sounds good. But then also when you get into it, it's quite interesting. And marketing roles, or funnel builder or something like that, or videographer, you can pay very well. There's very big margins in it, and it's quite an interesting job. If I put my hand up for put a job out for a lettings manager, hey, do you want to manage likes, funnels and engagement and algorithms, or do you want to manage handymen, landlord and tenants? I get 10 people put their hand up for this job. And I can pay 20 grand a year for it. And it's not fulfilling, like, as a role in general. So it's really hard. The big penny drop with me in business is how easy it's to hire staff. Because when you run the business is not a business. You're a sole trader, which is not nothing wrong with it.
You're an operator.
Yeah. So everybody should be an operator as a sole trader starting their business off as a deal sourcer. But then think long and hard if you want to scale it, because it's really difficult. Because finding multiple builders, multiple project managers, the whole infrastructure to that is very, very difficult. And there's every business is difficult, but there's lower barriers to entry. Like, so I say, look, get yourself to a position where your portfolio is big enough and you've got enough income where you can make choices. And if you want to scale it, cool, but obviously bolt in and be prepared for it. And if you don't, then cool, you've got choices because you built a portfolio and you can kind of choice from there. But yeah, we built the lettings and I went from earning decent money. The lettings was losing me about 30 grand per year. And not only because we didn't have enough properties. We started when we was at about...
But you don't have the income, yes.
Yeah, so I didn't want to run it. So I hired a team. So straight away, the wage bill was just wiping it out. And then because we wasn't efficient enough, there was loads of inefficiencies. And because I was a landlord, not a letting manager, I was charging everybody low percentages. I wasn't putting the margins in. I went and got the training. I went and trained with Sally Lawson in the end. We started that business in the end. I did exit it in the end for like multi-six figures. Probably got the money back what I lost in the end, but the opportunity cost...
The time it's taken.
Yeah, and the energy, yeah, it was ginormous. And I struggled for like I went from buying one deal a month, from not buying another property for 3 years.
Because you're being sucked into the lessons.
Yeah, and I felt a moral obligation to make it right because all these investors like bought into me.
Yeah, and that's a thing that many people don't talk about. When you're selling a deal, the deal is part of it, but you are what they are trusting that you are going to deliver on that promise that you're making, and the property is going to do what you're saying it's going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we went from like doing 50 deals in 2 years to then buying like 5 deals a year. I had a big team which had to restructure. Not big, but a big enough team, too big for what I was handling. But I kind of was in the trap because the money what's coming in was from the deal sourcing to cover the team. But the more deals we were sourcing, the more it was compounding the problem at the back end because the building wasn't settled, like the build team wasn't settled, and neither was the lettings. Yeah. So then I ended up taking an overdraft out. I ended up paying £350 to a mentor because I had a bit of a bad experience with a mentor. And I went, do you know what? All this information in the book, I was reading and listening to roughly a book per week. So I was like, sorry, all the information's there, which it is. But the information alone is not enough. And you can do the right thing at the wrong time. And starting up a letting agent, starting up a refurbishment company was the right thing in the ecosystem of property.
They support your business.
But at the wrong time. My sourcing business wasn't strong enough. And I made this classic mistake of hiring a few staff at sourcing. What's the word? Is it depth? Like, Joe, when you just pass it over, you don't like delegate properly.
The words come straight in my head as well now. It'll come back to me in a moment.
But you just pass it over. I'm not a micromanager. I'm very much like, hey, here's it out of my head. I've got it in my head. Here it is. Got it. Brilliant. Just don't bother me. And I get on with it. And that was
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Understand it, but yeah, you get on with it. You figured it out.
Yeah. I was hoping for this night to come in on a white shiny horse and
just have a look at Google.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and just figure it out and kind of read my brain, but it just don't happen. You know, I didn't have the infrastructure in place. I didn't have and even then, when I learned how to build systems, I didn't manage them systems through correctly. I didn't have the patience for it. But it was a humbling, hard lesson. Hurt my ego as much as anything. But I chose to stick with it and stand by the investors I bought for. So I didn't earn no money from sourcing for about 3 years because everything I was earning was going back into compensating the problems we done. It was really painful on my ego, on the doubt of myself, on the pressure. They said I had to go and get an overdraft to manage it. But then I went and got a coach. The coach was like, I just got a business coach, you know, action coaches.
Coach, yeah.
When I got a business coach, I'd see he'd done something really well with another business. So he had proven concept. And he didn't teach me anything I hadn't learned from the books, but he gave me accountability and structure. And I went and joined a mastermind of being in for other people. So knowledge on its own is really nothing. And the problem is, where I was reading so much, I still read a lot, but I compound reading one subject now often. Because what I was reading new ideas and I'll start implementing a new idea a week into my business. And it just created a massive, massive, massive mess. It took me, in 2019, it took me the whole year of not buying many properties anymore, just enough to I got some decent investors, told them the truth, said, look, this is where we're at. If you want to invest, this is where we're at. We are having teething problems back end. If you want to invest, cool. If you don't. In fact, I was getting more investors by being too super transparent than I wanted to, but I might
appreciate that openness and honesty. Yeah.
But then I didn't get sucked into just taking every investor. I just chose, and we just really covered overheads and my living costs. I had a bit of a portfolio background, like, because at one stage, the mess I'd made it, like, I had 7 of my own properties empty because we didn't have the infrastructure there running correctly. It put me under massive stress and pressure.
When there's lots of money coming in, it's easy to take your eye off the ball. I think, oh, that's fine, they'll get sorted. There's not such big pressure. But really, that problem is compounding.
It was, yeah.
It's hurting, but we're just not paying attention to it.
It did. It really compounded. But I got a mentor and a mastermind. So quarterly meetups. Got back to it. 2020, we just settled things. We made our first month profit, like clear profit, not a profit in a year because it was losing money. I remember we made £700. Every morning I wake up and I listen to something motivational to get my mind in gear. I don't look at the news. That first hour, I just try and like prime my mind for the day and the challenges that's going to come ahead. And that morning I listened to a quote from, what's his name? The black guy in America, really charismatic. No, he's another good one. He's a bit of a chubbier guy, funny. I can't forget his name. Oh man. But anyway, listen to a quote to him. He said about, look, he said a bamboo seed takes 5 years. I remember 5 years to crack. He's like, on the old school, like public speaker motivators, 5 years to crack. He said, once that seed's cracked, overnight, I'm not going to try and do his accent and skip on that, but overnight, in 90 days, it grows 90 feet tall. He said, did it take 90 days to grow that tall, or did it take 5 years? And he said, of course, it takes 5 years. And he said, in business, it's the trials and the relationships, And when I looked at it, it was like a 5-year journey I'd gone through to that day. And my assistant rang me up that morning, and we just made last month with the P&L, we've done 700 quid. And I've listened to that morning. I remember buying all the team these little mini bamboos, and I was like, wowee. But always, in deep down, I always wanted to be a bit of a coach. I always liked coaching people. Even when I was young, all the adventures, I used to always bring my friends in on them and show them how to do it. But I was scared to put my hand up as a coach because the stigma that goes with it. So I had limiting beliefs, scared to do it. And then I went and bought anything I do, I just go and get the right education. So I bought a Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi training, mastermind training, bought that training, and like anybody at the start of things, I was all excited, yeah, I'm going to go after this and do it. And as I was coming to the implementation part of it, my confidence was diminishing. And then what I'd done is, because the lettings got settled again, I actively procrastinated. I went and took on a load of more investing clients because things were settled, and it kind of justifies, well, I'm a bit busy over here. I was self-sabotaging. At the time, I wasn't doing it consciously, but when I analysed it, I realised I'm just busying myself up over here. And then COVID was a massive favour. Like, we had a load of deals in legals, the lettings had just made profit, and then everything shut down. And I was like, right, is coaching even the right time? So then I went online and started learning how to do online coaching kind of thing.
That's an amazing journey that you've been through. When you started thinking about investors, how did you start finding those first investors? Someone's watching this and thinking, you know, I want to learn to source, I want to find deals, I want to sell deals. There's the skill in finding, negotiating, appraising, but finding the investors. How do you go about finding the investors?
Great question. The hardest thing in deal sourcing today is finding the first investors. So I was quite lucky, but I wouldn't, like similar again. So I say, look, remote property investing is a mindset shift more than anything else. Majority of things you do is done online. And even if you don't do it online, you want to learn to do it online because it'll leverage your time. You can leverage tech, AI tools to do things online. So it doesn't make sense. Getting your first investor is difficult, especially when you've got no track record and no experience. So for me, I was a little bit lucky because I lucked out. Where I was with my accountants and they was entrepreneurial, I was going to these seminars, going back to sitting with them. I just had a good relationship with them and going over it. And my accountant, I remember I went and done some training with Daniel Hill, and I caught him right at a good point of his career. This is a little tip. If you find coaches that have got a good track record and they're just starting up as a coach, they're usually a little bit cheaper. So when I've done a little bit of training with him, I don't know if you even remember it, but I've done this training with him. He'd just come out of 𝗵𝗲𝗁 mastermind. He'd smashed what he'd done. But again, he had transferable skills. At the time, he'd built 11 other businesses. He's being mentored by 𝗵𝗲𝗹𝗽 at the time. So he was a pedigree of an entrepreneur. So he had transferable skills coming to property. And this is what I say about that Hussain Bolt thing. When I take people through that scoring, if we figure out you are the Hussain Bolts, okay, we put the game plan for you. And we figure out you're not, the game plan is for you, because like getting started is the main thing. But ultimately, I've done some training with him, and I remember at the time, you remember the old school deal packaging was more find a deal, sell the lead, and that was it. It wasn't portfolio building. He was the first concept. I went and done his training. He was like, we're building portfolios for a bigger fee, but it was HMOs. And I was telling my accountants about it, saying, hey, why don't you JV? And I was looking at the numbers and well, we're not really interested in splitting like 300 quid a month, and can't you just do it for us? Yeah. And I went, coincidentally, they asked me, I said, yeah, let me think about it. Went and done his training, come back the next week and went, yeah, I can do it for it. It's £9,000. I went, yeah, no problem, go and do it. Yeah. So I lucked out a little bit. Well, you call it luck. I was building relationships with them. I was actively they could see social proof of what I'd done because I was around them. So the big way to get your first investor is social proof. And especially at the moment, there's more deal sources, so it's very competitive. People come to me all the time and say, oh, would it work? Like, there's so much competition. I said, forget competition. Anything that earns good money, with the internet today, there will be competition. So it's learning how to operate in an environment of which is competitive. But guess what? 90% of that competition are not good. And I've got an 80-10-10 principle where I say, look, 10% of people like to rip you off. Like just calculated, like, let me see if I can rip you off. Maybe 5-10% intentionally. 90% of people have got good intentions. Yeah. But when you think of good intentions, how many drivers do you know are bad drivers? Yet how many drivers do you know admit they're bad drivers? Most people have got the self-awareness to know that they're not good at something. Everybody feels they're better. So most of that good intentions is either from not realizing you're not good, effort. I know loads of talented people that just haven't got the effort. Or loads of talented people, like me at the time, that take on too much and haven't got the capacity. So there's a number of things that go with that. So I say, look, if you're good at what you do, you're rise to the top anyway. So forget the competition. And what makes you good is consistency and managing your capacity and growing, but make sure you do that at a good pace with it. At the start, going back to your question as well, is finding your first investors, you need social proof. That is a hard part. So for me, I had the social proof and the documentation of it because I didn't have no social media, but my accountants,
track record of doing it.
Yeah, my accountants could see what I was doing. I had a track record. Then my next investors all come from creating an online profile. Go out of my comfort zone and I create an online profile. But the problem is if you make an online profile with no activity, like there is a certain degree you can do, like you can document what you're learning, how you're learning it, but it is a little bit harder. This is why I say when everybody's starting out, try and get somebody else to co-source with. Whether you, like there's programs out there, like I'm not trying to pitch myself, but I've got a program, there's a number of other people that you buy into their program and they will help you co-source a deal. So the entry fee into that program is worth it because you leverage their social proof, their network and their credibility.
Yeah, so you progress to the deal faster, you can build the credibility up.
Absolutely, if you document what you're doing and document working with them as well, you will like really fast track your journey. So there's a barrier to everything's got I remember 𝗵𝗲𝗹𝗽 and Progressive was one of my first, they were the first paid real mentors. I went with them, I've done 𝗵𝗲𝗹𝗽𝗽 HMO course and with 𝗵𝗲𝗹𝗽. And that's when I've done that HMO close to home and I realised, wow, like it sounds sexy on paper, but it was a bit pressure. But anyway, back to where he's at kind of thing. I remember Mark at the time was saying there's always a gate entry fee. You've always got to pay an entry fee. So either with money or with time and effort. Yes. And the reality is money is replenishable. Depending where you are financially, time and effort isn't.
Yes, you can always make more money, but you can't make more time.
Absolutely. So now if I've got the capital, it's a short, even if I feel I can learn it myself by trial and error, I will pay the money to shorten that learning curve. So if you've got the money, pay to join somebody's program. If you haven't got the money, you just got to put the time and effort in. How you do that is, this is a proven method. I learned this from a guy called 𝗵𝗲𝗃. It's called conversation conversions. And again, it's just being patient. 𝗵𝗲𝗃𝗁 teaches this. So start building a little bit of an online profile. Start documenting what you're doing to show you're credible and show you putting effort in. And document it. If you haven't done a deal, to say, I'm trying. And people will commend you keep on trying. And then network with, find 3 deal sources in your area. and engage with them. Don't just dive into their DMs cold and go, hey, do you want to co-source with me? I get offered that all the time. You might have the best co-sourcing deal in the world, but I haven't, like, the time opportunity of me figuring out if you've got the effort, if you're credible, if you know how to do it, showing you how to then speak, like, to deliver this. Like 1 in 10 of them people reach out to me. So the money I earn from that one is not worth the risk of analysing them 9.
I realise that time they might be doing something almost for free, thinking they're giving you something, but you've got to put effort into it as well, and it might not make sense or worthwhile.
What's the name? Warren Buffett did. He went to is Alan Bell, like his first mentor, and he said, I work for you for free. He said, you're overpriced. You don't realise what my time's worth in teaching you. So anyway, what I say to people to do is, look, learn how to analyse deals. You can learn that information on YouTube. Like your channel, there's stuff on there that tells people the fundamental basics, and just go out there and do that repetitively. And again, I teach people to say, don't go and make offers, because if you make an offer of an agent and don't sell a deal, that's it, game over. Straight away. They already do the, like, would they accept that I feel I could have somebody who might be interested in this? But if you can find out, I'll go and find out from them. Then find these deals, analyse them. And what I say, if you're then, be patient with this. It's going to take a bit. If you haven't got the money to buy into it, you've got to put the time in. So engage. If somebody likes and engages your channel, say, I'm asking you a question. If this guy turns up every week liking it and commenting, sharing your stuff, does he buy your mind space a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. They've got your attention.
Yeah. So then if they do that for free and they give you value, if they engage on your post, that gives value because it helps the algorithms. If they share it, it gives value. So give value, like pick 2 or 3 people you think could sell the deals that you'd find. And then spend 3 months just liking and engaging, but then spend 3 months of building a pipeline. Because going back to that, motivation shifts over time. I went on a tangent earlier on, but motivation shifts with time. So day one of somebody you put a property on the market, most people are overpriced.
Yes, they've got high expectations. Yeah.
So what I do with how I find deals, look at 10 a week, say to them, I'm not going to offer on that because your price too high and I don't embarrass you, but I'll keep in touch. Keep in touch with them, touch points. Guess what? When they realise they're overpriced, who's fresh in mind? And again, it just takes consistency of just doing it.
Because you're in touch regularly. Yeah. You've got mind space again.
You've got mind space. You've been nice to them. You didn't do the low ball offer. I often buy properties cheaper than the person who might pay a little bit more because they just pissed them off because they went, I'll give you 20, like, yeah, got a cheeky offer, and it just offends them. I've been super
There as well.
Absolutely, super nice with them. Say, look, what I advise you to do, you need to really get us up to standard. You need to do this, and this to achieve what you want to do. You might luck out by getting somebody who just wants it on location. If you do, good luck. This is a number game for me. For you, you've got 1 property. But if it changes, I'm here. And every now and again, you drop a message, hey, how you getting on that deal? See, it's on the market. So you do that for 3 months, and then deals will slowly start trickling through. So I say to people, just build a pipeline, just analyse a lot, and then learn how to present that. And then these people that you're been networking with online and liking, engaging, sharing their stuff, by the time you find a deal in 3 months, just send it to them, all prepared. So I can't sell this. I don't want nothing from it. All I want is a social proof. Can I sit on your shoulder while you then deliver this through? Can I come and create some content on it? Because then that person will be able to say, we done this. Because even though you didn't earn any money from it, you did do it. You found it, you sat on his support shoulder, offer some support. So if you need any help with anything, I'll even come and clear the property out. The social proof you'll get from that and leveraging that person and tagging them in, and they will definitely share it with you because you just bought them a deal. The social proof you get from that will be worth more money than you get from the deal. Do that twice with a person, or maybe once or twice, then you'll be able to broker a deal with them. They'll probably be brokering a deal with you saying, can you find me more of these deals? And they'll just see your consistency. You're like, if I see talent and I'm not even looking for a role, I'm often thinking, like, how can I bring them into my business? Because I know talent's hard to find, but yeah, it just takes consistency and effort. But yeah, getting them first investors needs social proof. So either do that method of effort, get the social proof by leveraging somebody else, be patient, charge less money, or your immediate network. So what I say is offer about offer again. Learn how to put proposal packs together, build a little bit of a profile. So I say to people, build a website and build like a funnel and build a little bit of social proof online. You won't get following off the back of it, but this is just like a footprint for you. Like, this is for when you get business, not to get business. Yeah, absolutely, yeah, just social proof. And then once you've done that for a little while, pick everybody in your network you think's got money. And instead of pitching them, go to them and say, hey, I want to pick your brains. I'm about to go and sit in front of a load of investors And I just want I know you're good around money, so before I actually go to a stranger, I just want to give me feedback, so I can go for a bit of a role play with you, where I'll just show you what I would do and how I do it. And then show me social media, say, give me a bit of feedback. Is there good information there? Send them through your funnel, because there's a study from 𝗍𝗲𝗁, Zero Moment of Truth. Google said, from Google said it takes 11 touch points over 7 hours over 4 different locations for the average person to build trust. Yes. Influence, that book in the 80s, said it was 7 touch points. It's just gone up because of social media. Yeah. So skepticism has gone up, trust level has gone down. So by building a funnel on a website and a social media profile, you get them first touch points. Then you drag them into the funnel, into longer form content, more touch points. Then you drag them onto your website to get a bit more information. Then you drag them on a call. You've been across 4 different locations, and usually you're getting close towards your 7 hours. So if you tell a family member or a friend to do that, they go through it, you jump on a call with them and like their investor. So you practice your pitch as well, without no pressure, because you're not pitching them properly. At the end of the call, probably 2 out of 10 of them people would say, I've actually got money.
Yes, yeah.
But what you don't do at the end of the call is pitch them. What you do at the end of the call is say, hey, what did you think of it? You temperature check them. You say, if you was an investor, from 1 to 10, do you think you would have gone for that deal? Temperature check them. If they say, yeah, out of 10, what do you think? Out of the information I give you. If they say anything above an 8, you go, right, that's strong. If they don't pitch them, be patient. You go away, the next deal you get, you say, hey, look, I'm about to put this out to some investors. You said you was an 8. Do you want to have a look at this? Yes. And you do that to enough people that you know, that's offering without feeling pitchy, icky, pressuring people. So yeah, it
doesn't feel uncomfortable as well for the person that you're speaking to. Yeah,
and for you, yeah. So
especially when there's already an existing relationship with a friend, family, or something, it can feel a little bit awkward. Here's my new business venture that I'm doing. Can you just have a look at this, like the MLM stuff? Absolutely. And this is much more nice, much more comfortable way of doing it.
Yeah, I learned that from when I went to Progressive, and I learned go and get other people's money, blah blah. That first land development, mistakenly, one of my close friends not close, but a good friend from the young, he built a really successful mastic company, very successful, great business guy. When I bought that piece of land, he was like, let me come in on that. And me being greedy, like, no. I should have took
You want to come into it, must be good, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, I should have took him on. He's got great business acumen. He's in mastic, he's on site all the time. He had good capital. I feel we would have developed it if I brought him on, but my greed, anyway. A few years later, I had some deals and I was learning about this other people's money stuff. Who was the first person I went and pitched him? Tom, let me come and see you. Tom, join in on this. And he's like, it's called you trigger sales resistance. So because I was too heavy on the pitch, his sales resistance went up. I was like, oh. His guy went up and that's it. I've just lost him. Yes. And then 2 years later, because I was starting a refurbishment business, I went, Tom, can I pick your brain? How you run that? And naturally we started talking about deals and he went, oh, I've got some money. So because I wasn't pitching him, he pitched me the first deal, I said no. Second deal I pitched him, he said no. Third deal I wasn't pitching him again, and we end up doing a JV together. Yeah. Wow. So I was like, right, okay, this works.
So social media has definitely been a very powerful part of your journey, building your business and access to investors and potentially opening doors with agents as well. If someone's getting started on social media, which platform do you think they should start with? Is it, again, about personality, depending on your profile, or which platform you should be looking at?
Yeah, great question.
Everywhere?
No, not everywhere. You spread yourself in. It's too difficult. Again, I done some training with somebody, I'm not going to name them, but they was like, yeah, you could create one piece of content and multi-purpose it across all platforms. And you can if you've got a team. Yes. That person's got a team of 7. You can't if you're one person. And I had a VA and we're just spreading crap because it's to be able to mine out good bits, it takes... It's so diluted. Yeah. Exactly. So we actually damaged my profile by just multi-purpose it across everywhere. Pick one channel. If I was in the property space, that'd be Instagram. Short form content. And again, this worked on me as well. So people, attention spans are diminishing. But what's diminishing more is consideration spans, because there's so much content getting produced each day. What people consider to watch is really low. And if I go onto YouTube to learn something now, I'm looking for this video that can explain it to me in the shortest amount of time, unless they are credible and got a back track record. So if they've got a name behind it, I know them. If I see a video of a stranger with an hour in front of it, even down to the podcast thing with you, even newbies, if you've got a guest, I'd watch one of your podcasts because I know the guest and I know you. But if somebody was interviewing you and I didn't know them, I'd think I've watched loads of Sadgy stuff. What I need, like a newbie person.
What they're going to extract.
Yeah, what they're going to extract anyway. I've heard on another podcast from Saj anyway. If you're on a podcast with somebody too interesting, this is why podcasts are hard to get started with. This is why long form content's hard to get started with, because confidence is a massive thing.
Attention at the beginning.
Yeah, and getting their attention and your own personal confidence and getting on camera. So it's easier to create a minute video than it is an hour video or a 10-minute video for YouTube. The algorithms are pushing short form content at the moment. So it's easier to get natural reach off of it as well. So I would advise short form content. And the good thing with short form content, so you'll remember, Saj, we've both been in the game with content for quite a while. Back in the day, Instagram was carousel. Before short form content was like carousels and a little bit of writing. Facebook was a kind of a little bit of a blend, and live videos was working really well on Facebook. YouTube was purposeful, but each platform you had to make content for the platform purposeful, or have a really skilled editor that could repurpose it into that thing that costs money. But short form content's changed that. You can create a bit of content and you can put it on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook and YouTube now. There is nuances across them all. They do perform predominantly more on one to the other, but you can still multi-purpose it and you don't have to really change it too much. So I start with short form content because, again, attention spans are lower. They are there if you can build them up.
Video content.
Yeah, video. I would start with video as well. If you're not, again, I've got a delta matrix for this. Ask the question. So say, how much social proof have you got? 0 to 10. So if you've done loads of deals, how much, how much confidence you've got? How photogenic and introverted or extroverted are you? And what I mean by this is, I'm not being horrible to anybody, but if you're super good looking and super charismatic, it does help.
Yes.
You know, like for me, obviously that's why I do so well on social media.
I was just going to say we have to work harder, but
like you, Saj, of course. That's why you're doing so well. It's not to do your business acumen or anything like that. It's
you can come again.
Yeah, it's your charisma and your looks that's got you there. But it does help, but it's not a must. You know, it's definitely not a must, but it does help. And again, your confidence helps with this, and your time you've got to commit to it, because YouTube takes more time than creating a minute video. I create the formula where it's a 10-minute content creator. I create most of my videos within 10 minutes because I quickly created and edited, and I showed multiple people where I can do this. If you make it a task where it takes you an hour to set up, get everything going and do it, you're procrastinating on doing it. I can't convince I haven't got 10 minutes to do the most impactful thing in my business to do it. So most of my content's created simple, easy, and effective like that. So I advise people to start with short form videos. If you're really unconfident, you can do text overlays.
Yeah, or not even maybe in the video. What's your thoughts on that?
Not what, sorry?
Not have your face.
Yeah, that's what I say. Start with just text overlays. Yeah. That's it. If you're unconfident, build it up. So start with text overlays, then start doing voiceovers, and then start doing voiceovers with you on the video, but not you speaking face to camera, and then do face to camera. You've got to build it up, you know. And if you're a bit more confident, okay, let's start you off straight to face to camera. Like, just depends where you are. The reality, if it's too overwhelming, you won't do it. So start with short form content. You get bigger reach, and then once you get momentum and you craft your skill, when you start with this, you're usually not that good anyway. So just practice when the odds are low. Not much reach, so the odds are low there. Just craft it, repetition. Try and do it daily.
Yeah, rather than a 10-minute polished video, you could do 10 one-minute videos, which are going to be much more valuable to you at the beginning when you start.
Yeah, absolutely. And got much more of a chance of the algorithms pushing it out, and much more of a shot. Have you heard of 𝗵𝗲𝗁, the sales guy? Never heard of him until last year. Love 𝗵𝗲𝗁. Do you know there's certain personalities, I try not to hate on anybody, but there's certain personalities you warm to more than others. I didn't naturally warm to his personality straight away, but I see he's hooked. Like, the hook is the most important thing with it. If you don't hook their attention, especially with short form content, flick, it's just gone. So he used 𝗵𝗲𝗁 as his hook, and he disagreed with him instantly. And I thought, oh, what you got to say? You're just using that as a hook because you know 𝗵𝗲𝗁's trending, and you're going to I thought he was going to embarrass himself. So I was just waiting to watch him just embarrass himself. And he said, look, he watched the video and went, look, Alex, what I say is that works for you if you're exposing who you are, but somebody new, I think they have to start here. And it made sense. I was like, oh man, you make sense. So then I watched a few more of his reels, and then I went onto his YouTube. Then I bought his book, and now I'm very close to buying his course. So it took me through his journey, but he grabbed my attention on a reel. If I'd have watched an hour, 10-minute video, I wouldn't have clicked on the video because I didn't know who he was. So start with Reels, practice that. Once you're good and efficient of that, you've got the leverage. YouTube's harder to get the momentum on anyway. But if you've got the leverage and the audience off your Reels, you then push that across into YouTube as a secondary thing. But again, depends. I work with a guy called Mitch Nunn, super active. Mitch, it's easy to create content with you. Just put a camera on your shoulder.
Yeah, yeah.
You are the content. So for you, we started YouTube a little bit quicker than we did most, but we still start with Reels. You're still a bit nervous. We start with Reels, we get that built up, and then we introduce YouTube. So just depending on your journey, how active you are, how confident you are to where you go, but 100% short form content first of all.
So there's lots of things we could talk about,
yes.
and especially when it comes to marketing, a sort of a topic we're both really keen and interested in. But one thing I do want to talk about before we start wrapping up is your core model is buy-to-let.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a future in buy-to-let?
Thought you might ask this question. 100%. And again, it goes down to macro and microeconomics. Not in London, not in the south anymore.
Okay.
In general, there's always these micro sort of bits, and I always get resistance. Especially, I say people, look, I love London. I was born there, I'm super patriotic and proud that I was born in our great city. But facts don't lie. I get these people feedback and look at the capital growth, look what happened in the crash. I said, the markets are different. The price per earnings ratio is what's London since 2016. The facts drive me, not emotional decisions. Since 2016, London has grown about 20% since 2016, not year on year, since 2016. London grew 518% from 1996 up to 2016. And the reason it done that is a number of factors. Relaxed banks throwing money out, buy-to-let getting introduced in the sort of late 80s, 90s. There was loads of factors that went into it, loads of foreign loads of the UK collapsed as industrial revolution and end of World War II. And to save that, Margaret Thatcher, loved her or hate her, she attracted money into London. So London became the Dubai at the time. In the 80s and 90s, they relaxed, they ignored where the Russian money was coming in, and they let loads and loads of money come into London. And they kept them, they felt trusted in there. So it drove the prices up artificially. Like people say, the past dictates the future. You look at the whole history of the property data, London never grew 518% within 2 years. Ray Dalio says this. He said, people have got long-term and short-term thinking. He said, you've got to look at the long-term cycle and not the short-term cycle. So London had a short-term blip. When you look at the whole history from Birmingham and everywhere else, London, if you looked at the chart, it was going up like this. London was just above it slightly everywhere. Then all of a sudden, London went like that, and everywhere else carried on growing like that. So at one stage, economics catch up with that. Price per earnings ratio. The average salary in London is around 40 odd grand, and the average house price is around 700k. If the multiplier is 5 of your salary, tell me how that can keep on going. And I recognise this in 2016, but I also recognise in 2016 the government restricted in foreign investment. So George Osborne come in, he done they called it the Powerhouse of the North. They then changed to Living Up. They changed the name. But what they done is they invested in Manchester first of all. Because again, look at longer history. When we as industrial revolutionary leaders of the world, the UK, wealth distribution was equal across the UK. Even up to the 1980s. I remember Margaret Thatcher, and you'll remember the poll tax riots, the miners striking.
Throughout the country.
Yeah, because the wealth then diluted to London and it became a business hub, and you had to be in London. But now the wealth distribution is distributing again because businesses got incentivized to go to other locations, Birmingham, London, Manchester, and the model got broke. And where business got competitive, a lot of businesses were going, right, okay, we can have offices in London at 25 million, or we can have offices in Manchester at 1 million. We can pay salaries in London at 40 grand. We could pay the same salary in Manchester at 35 grand. And straight away, our overheads are reduced instantly. And it proved that concept in Manchester. Now you're seeing it going across the north and across everywhere. So there's certain pockets. So buy-to-lets don't work everywhere. Birmingham, they don't really work anymore now. The price has got too high and the rents didn't keep with it. So similar again, metrics. The average price in 1996 was £79,000 in London. It jumped up into 2016 to 516,000. The average income was £22,000 in 1996 and only went up to, I think, 31,000 in 2016. So the price didn't follow it, but also the rents didn't quite follow the yields either as well. So the rents did go up, then follow it. But there's micro pockets across the UK now. So in Stockton-on-Tees, Teesside, not everywhere across it, like Newcastle's getting a bit more difficult. Birmingham's definitely a lot more difficult, but you can buy properties still for like £80,000, what you can rent for like £650, £700 a month. Yeah. So there's loads of margin in there. The average, this is what I'm looking at, the average salary in the area is £36,000 in Teesside, I think it is, if I remember rightly, and the average price is 140. So it's aligned. There's loads of infrastructure and work coming in. So the largest super ports going around there. Amazon's building more factories there than anywhere else. They just got the old steel works were collapsed and lost a lot of their industry, is just being redeveloped into carbon renewable thing. The wind farms, a lot more people working online. So unlike in 2008, when we're just coming out of all that collapsing in the industry, the coal mines and everything collapsing, and then irresponsible lending and going alongside that, we've got infrastructure going into these areas. And so Manchester don't even really work for buy-to-lets anymore because the price, much higher, and the rents didn't keep with it. But there's little micro pockets that still work. But I feel you've got maybe a 5-10 year like time horizon where that will still work, and then it would be like everywhere. It would be too expensive.
So then, what sort of returns is it still generating? You're renting £650 a month. Mm-hmm. You're buying at around 80 grand. Mm-hmm. What's after your mortgage, management costs? What's that leave?
Everything with a contingency for repairs, voids, like longer term voids, longer term repairs. You probably will. It's not life changing, but for me, it's like it's getting you on the ladder, building up that skills, getting going, building a foundation stability in there. So you can easily achieve like 250s even with the high rates with them. And if they work at 250 now, they're going to be more like 350 when the rates, if they come down, sort of thing.
And how much cash would be tied up in one of those?
If you just done it straight for a buy to let, about 30k, straight vanilla, like turnkey. And I say to some people, look, if you haven't got the confidence, just do a turnkey. Build out confidence. It's not what's going to make you. The capital growth is there again in the right pockets. If you get the right pockets there, it's not what's going to make you, it's the foundation it gives you. If you've done it as a BRR, you typically leave about 8-10k in these deals. So you're leaving 8k in, return on capital is usually around 25% return on capital.
You've just put your deposit in and rented it straight.
Easy about 12 to between 10 and 15%, which is strong. And
those are decent yields if you can achieve those. As I said, I think most of the country is starting to just work. There's a few pockets that probably still work.
Yeah, it is only pockets left now. Like you've got Wales, some of the northeast, odd parts of the northwest, you know, like and micro parts of these cities as well. But they're all going in one direction, so you've got a little window left to do it, kind of thing.
Harvey, as I said, this has been an amazing conversation. We could spend hours and hours talking about this. What's the best way for people to connect with you and reach out to you if they want to speak to you?
Instagram is the main. I'm on most of the platforms now, but Instagram is the main platform.
Followers you got on Instagram?
100,000.
Fantastic, great work.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for coming on, and maybe we can do a part 2 because there's so much more to discuss.
Yeah, 100%. But look, before we jump off, listen, guys, anybody from my audience might watching it for me, definitely follow Saj. He is the real deal. I am selective. Truthfully, with this podcast I come on, I'm super in admiration of what you've done. You're an inspiration to myself. Just the infrastructure, watching what you're doing here as well. And anybody watching, we are following Saj around today as well to see what his day's like. We're documenting this beforehand.
In the description as well.
Yeah, brilliant to see how it works. But yeah, congratulations to you as well, Saj. You're a leader, an inspiration for me and many others, and keep doing what you're doing, mate.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on.